Welcome to Reparenting Daily, your free daily guide for inner child healing and repairing the relationship with yourself. This podcast helps you establish a consistent reparenting routine and is divided into 3 sections. The first is the daily reading, the second is a discussion of the reading, followed by suggested journal prompts, and the last section is peaceful binaural beats meditation for closing. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from whenever and wherever you're joining us. I'm so glad that you could join us on this journey of self-expansion. If this is your first time here, welcome. As a celebration of passing episode 700, I've opened a free membership tier for the Patreon community so you can access additional resources and join the weekly Zoom calls for free. I know there's a lot going on in the world right now and that so many people are really struggling. My hope here is to still encourage others to continue the work on reparenting and to offer a free community where people can come together and do that. I'd also like to thank all of you who've been along on the journey so far. Just as a reminder, this is a free podcast, but you can support the project by purchasing the Reparenting Daily Journal, where you can follow us along all year. This 333-page journal gives you extra insight and resources for each week, and also provides space for you to keep your notes. Another way to support the podcast is to purchase the Fairy Tales for Reparenting series, volumes 1 through 3. This collection organizes famous and obscure fairy tales from around the world into the 3 phases of the hero's journey. While you might think that fairy tales are for kids, I'd like to challenge you. These stories contain profound truths and lessons carried down over millennia that we can use in our reparenting journey. It's a fun way to reconnect with your inner child. Each volume comprises 10 fairy tales. They include an analysis section to help you dive deeper into the message, as well as journal prompts and space to reflect on the story's meaning in your life. Lastly, you can also support the project by taking a paid Patreon subscription, by purchasing the books on the website, or by donating via Buy Me a Coffee. You can find all this information on the Support Us section of the website. So now, with these announcements out of the way, let's dive into today's practice. Today, we're listening to a lecture entitled How to Get 1% Better Every Day by James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits. We've read that book earlier in the podcast, and so I thought to bring it back this week as we're at the end of week 2 in April. The year is flying by, guys. By the way, we're in April and the theme is developing structure and discipline. We're in week 2, the last day of the week 2, and the theme for this week has been building supportive routines. So in this video, James Clear is talking about how habits can be used to build identity over time. And then he takes a closer zoom in on how habits can be more effectively structured in order to achieve success. So without further ado, I hope you enjoyed this talk by James Clear.
One way to think about it is just kind of basic math. Like if you just look at the numbers, if you were able to improve by 1% each day for an entire year, and those gains compound, you would end up 37 times better at the end of the year. And if you were to get 1% worse, you would whittle yourself almost all the way down to 0. What's interesting here is that everybody wants a transformation, right? Everybody wants a radical improvement, we want rapid success. But we fail to realize that small habits and little choices are transforming us every day already. For the rest of this talk, there are 4 stages of habit formation. I'm going to take you through each of those 4. So the 4 stages are noticing, wanting, doing, and liking. Noticing, wanting, doing, and liking. One of my favorite things about noticing, one of my favorite strategies for discussing it, it's called implementation intentions. Many people think that they lack motivation when what they really lack is clarity. They think that they need to get more motivated, that they need willpower in order to execute on a habit. If I just felt like writing, if I just felt like meditating, if I felt like working out, then I would do it. But in fact, they don't have a plan for it, and so they wake up each day thinking, I wonder if I'll feel motivated to write today. I wonder if I'll feel motivated to work out today. But instead, you can take the decision-making out of it by explicitly stating when, where, and how you want to implement the habit. It sounds easy to say, let's just start a plan, let's write down exactly what you should do, and then maybe you'll follow through on it. But of course, we all know that there are challenges that arise. It's not quite that easy. So here's a little strategy that I like to use to make sure you can come up with a better plan of action, and it's called a failure pre-mortem. So the way that it works is you think about the habit, the project, the goal, whatever the most important thing is that you want to work on. And then I want you to imagine, fast forward 6 months from now, and you failed. And then tell the story of why you failed. What happened? What challenges did you encounter? What was it that took you off course? Once you have all that stuff laid out on the table in front of you, you can start to make better choices about how to develop a plan. You can start to have if-then plans. So not only do I want to exercise for 20 minutes on Monday at 5 p.m., but also if I do not exercise because I have to take my kid to practice or whatever, then Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. I will go in, right? You can have ways to adjust for these challenges. Stage 2, wanting. One of the most overlooked drivers of habits and human behavior is our physical environment. And this is an interesting insight about our desires. Your environment often influences them. We want things simply because they are an option, right? Simply because they are in front of us at the time. Thankfully, you don't have to be the victim of your environment. You can also be the architect of it. You can decide to design something to make your good behaviors easier and your bad behaviors harder. So, when it comes to habits, if you want to practice your guitar more frequently, put it right in the middle of your living room so you run across it all the time. If you want to read more, when you make your bed in the morning, take the book you want to read, put it on top of the pillow. When you come back that night, pick it up, read a few pages, go to sleep. Many of our desires are simply shaped because we have an environment that shapes us in that way. So the moral of the story is I've never seen someone stick to positive habits in a consistent fashion in a negative environment. Maybe you can overpower it once or twice. Maybe you can have the willpower to do the right thing on one day. But if you're constantly fighting against those forces, it's going to be very hard to follow through. Stage 3, doing. The important insight here, especially for habits, is that in the beginning, the most important thing is just to shut up and put your reps in. Just make sure that you hone the skill, right? And you can start to think of it, the way that I like to think of it is that any outcome that you wish to achieve is just a point along the spectrum of repetitions. So if you have few reps to more reps, and you can imagine an easy goal, moderate goal, a hard goal, the more reps that you put in, the more likely you are to achieve that goal. Now, what I like to say is you should optimize for the starting line, not the finish line, right? So often when we think about habits, goals, routines, achievements, it's all about the milestone. We think about how much weight we want to lose, how much money we want to earn, how many subscribers we want to have. It's all fixed on the finish line. But instead, if you can optimize for the starting line and make it as easy as possible to get started and get your reps in, often the outcomes just come as a natural result. Okay, stage 4, liking. The only reason that we repeat behaviors is because we enjoy them, because we like the reward. If we don't enjoy the experience along the way, we're unlikely to stick with it. And that means that you need to figure out ways to bring a reward into the present moment because good habits have a problem. And that problem is that for good habits, the immediate consequence is there. There's a cost that happens in the moment, but the reward is often delayed. So you need to figure out how to bring the reward into the present moment to stick to a good habit. And someone else who's going to be speaking here, Seth Godin, had a very nice little quote about this where he said, the best way to change long-term behavior is with short-term feedback. And one way to think about that is that long-term behaviors, sticking with writing for years on end or going to the gym and so on, they have those delayed consequences. So you need a way to enjoy it in the moment. So here's what I think you should do. Get a wall calendar where you can see every day of the year mapped out on it. And then any day that you do your task of writing jokes for 15 minutes, I want you to just put an X on that day. And you'll have a couple false starts here and there, but at some point you're going to get a little bit of a chain going, right? You get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days in a row. And at that point, your only goal becomes to don't break the chain. Doesn't matter how good or how bad the jokes are, doesn't matter if it makes it into your material, just don't break the chain. What's interesting about this is that by measuring your progress, you get an immediate reward in the moment, right? The reward of like having a great stand-up routine 40 days from now or 40 weeks from now or whatever, is not, it's so delayed that you need something in the moment that makes you feel good. So if you do those 15 minutes, you can cross that off. That's a way to get an immediate hit, a little bit of a reward by tracking it. We often fear that in order to achieve something new, to become someone new, we have to abandon everything that we are. But in fact, that's not how it works. Change can happen plank by plank, board by board, habit by habit. And gradually, you can become someone new. With consistency and repetition, you can actually change not only your results, but actually your identity. Is because the more evidence that we have for a belief, the more likely we are to believe it. So if you go to church every Sunday for 20 years, you believe that you are religious. If you study Spanish every Thursday night for 20 minutes, you believe that you are studious. The actions that you take provide evidence for who you are. And it's not that habits matter more necessarily on an individual basis. Each moment in life matters, but what ends up happening is that over the broad span of time, things that you do once or twice fade away, and things that you do time after time, day after day, week after week, accumulate the bulk of the evidence for what you believe about yourself. And so every action that you take is actually a vote for the type of person that you want to become. If you want to become someone new, then you can take a new action and begin to accumulate evidence for that identity, for that belief about yourself. And that the more votes that you cast, the more likely you are to win the election. You don't need to be unanimous. You don't have to be perfect all the time. You just need to have the body of work. So true change is actually not behavior change, it's not results change, it's not process change, it's identity change. The goal is not to read a book, it's to become a reader. The goal is not to write a book or write an article, it's to become a writer. The goal is not to run a marathon, it's to become a runner, to become a type of person, to develop an identity. And the way to being something or becoming someone is through doing something. So every time you sit down to write, every time you practice that habit, you are being a writer. Every time you play a sport, you're being an athlete. Every time you practice painting or music or whatever, you are being an artist. And habits are not only the method through which we achieve external measures of success, like losing weight or earning more money or meditating and reducing stress. They are also the path through which we achieve internal change and actually become someone new. They're the path through which we forge the identity that we have, the deepest beliefs we have about ourselves, our sense of self. And so if you can change your habits, you can change your life. Thank you.
Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed this little short video. Just as a reminder, the link is in the show notes. You can click on that title to see the clip in its entirety. And there's also another longer talk where he spoke on the similar topic. So I also put that there. That's a second hyperlink after the title of the talk. And so I really hope that you guys benefited from this because building habits, especially with the book Atomic Habits, we read quite a bit of that in the beginning of this podcast journey. Habits are how you change your life. We are what we repeatedly do. And there are tricks that we can use to change our habits to be more positive and supportive of who we are, our health, our identity, or who we want to be for that matter. Habits that we've developed over time from growing up in dysfunctional families that require us to be on this process of reparenting are something that must be intentionally weeded through, because most often we develop habits that are not that good. For example, the don't talk, don't trust, don't feel, don't talk, don't trust, don't feel rule. That keeps you out of connection. So that habit of not talking, of not feeling, of not sharing, keeps you perhaps stuck in a cycle of isolation, emotional isolation. Perhaps another habit was eating habits, If you grew up in a family who was not aware of the importance of nutrition or how to eat correctly, that could lead to health and weight issues. Health and weight issues lead to self-esteem issues and so on. All of this builds. And so that's why changing one simple habit can have such a huge impact on your life, your identity, and your day-to-day experience of your life. Habits are oh so important. One of the most important habits that we've been working on in this reparenting project. This is now episode 720. And last night I came to a realization that 2 solid years of reparenting episodes is quite an accomplishment. And I've decided to stop the daily episodes once we get to episode 730, which is 10 more episodes away. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. But I need to change the pace of things for myself and for this project and to actually get the message across because, I don't want healing, quote unquote, reparenting to become my entire identity. It is a part of my life. That's the reason why I created this project, to share my experience, my growth, the things that I've overcome. But what's most important is that we begin to live our lives. At a certain point, you become addicted to healing, addicted to reparenting. And so I want to communicate to you guys that there's a different way to go about this, to mix reparenting with living now. I've done an intensive 2-year period, and this also came after 2 or 3 years prior when I first discovered what reparenting was. I was doing my own independent study, different groups and things. And now I've developed this podcast to create a habit for reparenting and to help others do that with this routine, this 3-process routine. But for 2 years, every single day, that's quite an accomplishment. This is a product or service that no one else has created. And I'm so thankful and grateful for all the support, your presence, for all of the encouragement that I've received. I appreciate it so much. It really means so much to me because I didn't really expect that to come from this project. I was more just sharing my experience because I couldn't find any other resource available to begin understanding where to start and what the fuck is going on. Maybe switch those, what the fuck is going on and where to start. And so that's why I created this, with a good intention, just to help people find a path on their own. I've really tried to decenter myself because I don't want to be portraying myself as a guru who knows all the answers. And no, I'm just a fellow traveler here along with you in the weeds and leading a bread trail, hopefully, of things that I found that can help someone else. Different resources, insights, ways of thinking. And I've accomplished that. And so what I've decided to do is to reduce to one episode per week in line with the weekly theme. I thought to do that at the beginning of this year. And then I just decided, you know what, I'm going to keep going forward and do every day because I came across this idea from this lady called Mary Meckley. She has this thing called the Daily Meditation Podcast, and this lady does a podcast every day. She always has a weekly theme also. It's a really great podcast. She's on episode like 4,572 or something crazy like that. She says it every first episode, and so like I really loved her intensity, and I really admired her, and she kind of is the one who, first of all, exposed me to meditation and a meditation habit. I would listen to that every morning after I would leave the gym for years. And so that was part of the inspiration on how I came up with this idea for a daily podcast on reparenting. Her and also this other podcast called Cool One. He changed the name recently to Reparenting Your Inner Child. It's with Kulwant Saluja. Before he had a different title, I can't remember the name. But he does much less frequent episodes now. I think only one this year so far. And he just does short readings, and so my idea was to combine both of those together. And I think 2 years of solid of that is already quite the accomplishment. It's a lot of work, guys. It's a lot of work. And to be honest, I have other projects going on now, and I have some other personal demands. My healing demands are taking more energy of me, and it's becoming a little bit burdensome. And so what I've decided to do is to reduce to one episode per week, per theme. That will most likely be on Mondays, sorry. I will also be doing the Friday Fireside Chat, still releasing those every Friday because that's more just informal. I don't have to do any preparing. I'm just talking about, where I'm at in this process. And it's a way for me to sit down and reflect and think about what's going on. The next is, what is the next announcement? I think that might be it. Oh yeah, the fairy tales for reparenting. I will still do those cartoons too every week, every Saturday probably, and then the fireside chat every Friday, and then the weekly podcast either on Sunday or Monday. I haven't decided if I will release it on Sunday or Monday yet, but I will let you know how things are working out. We still have 10 more episodes, so I will do a final. Well, not final, but like a halfway sign off for the episode 730, just so everyone is aware of, the changes that are coming. So it's no surprise. I'll make a few other announcements in other places, but I'm really fucking excited, guys, because like it's a really huge accomplishment, 365 times 2. That's 730 days every single day of support at your fingertips for free. A network of resources that will help you come back to yourself and to escape the fog, to escape the wilderness of the past that perhaps you've been lost on for some time. So I'm really glad that so many people have found it beneficial, that I've been able to help some people, expose people to new resources. That was my dream and my goal all along. And I have some other projects that I'm working on. So I'll be sharing those with you too as well pretty soon. But for now, let's think about some reflection questions from this talk. Thanks again for tuning in, by the way, and for letting me share a quick update with you guys. But for those reflection questions, number 1, what do your current habits say about your identity now? You can think about your best habits and perhaps the ones that you're a little bit less proud of. Number 2, where did you learn about habit setting first? Did you always know the importance of habits, the cumulative nature of the effects that they cause over time? And number 3, if you could set any habit today and have it be instantaneously stable, meaning it took you no effort to execute this habit every day, it was already ingrained, part of your natural daily living, what habit would that be? If you could choose any single habit to change your life, that you could just snap your fingers and it would be automatically set in, what would that be for you? Well, that's it for today, guys. As always, thanks for being here. Take care of yourself, and please do be well. back. Now, this is the third and final section of the daily podcast. This is your silent meditation. Please find a place where you can be comfortable and undisturbed, where you can relax and spend some time with yourself for the next 10 minutes. You can choose to be sitting, standing, lying down, or in whatever position makes you most comfortable today. Just take some time to listen to yourself. Next, be sure that you're taking time to be with your breath and to connect more fully with your body. Don't be disturbed or overwhelmed by your thoughts. Simply allow them to pass. Just observe them. Do not engage with your thoughts. Only be mindful of them passing, as if they are leaves drifting down top river. Use this time to connect with yourself, whatever time of day you are listening to this. Namaste.